Hi, and welcome to our webinar on why travelers aren't using DMO websites. This is a recording of a webinar that was done in conjunction with the Caribbean Tourism Organization. I wanted to introduce myself first. My name is Amrita Chandra, and I'm the head of marketing at Crowdriff. And if you'd like to reach me after the webinar, you can tweet me at Amrita Chandra or at Crowdriff. You can also visit www.crowdriff.com. Let's jump in. So today we're going to cover a few things in the next 20 to 30 minutes. We're going to talk a little bit about the traveler buying process. We're going to do a quick fun poll, talk about trends in consumer behavior, and then talk about how that relates to the common issues that we see with DMO websites. And finally, not only are we going to address the challenges with these websites, but we're going to give you some ideas of how to make your DMO website more appealing to travelers. All right, let's jump right in. So one of the things that we've seen out of all the work that we've done with DMOs, and certainly many others in this space have also done some great research on this, that typical traveler visits many websites while they're figuring out where they want to go, what they want to do, how they're going to get there, and what they want to experience. And so according to the CEO of MMGY, which is a great travel agency, a digital agency in the travel space, a typical traveler visits 34 websites over 8.5 sessions. And what this really means is that there isn't just one source that people turn to. They may be seeing their friends' photos on Snapchat. They may be looking through photos on Instagram, going to TripAdvisor. There's a number, of publications. There's any number of ways that they may be getting this information. And the DMO website is just one of them. Now, obviously, this makes it hard for some DMOs to stay relevant, but at the same time, it's also an opportunity to make your DMO website an authoritative source of content. There are 4 overall trends in consumer behavior that are really relevant to the talk that we're giving today. Specifically, one, which is great for everyone in the travel industry, that people are preferring experiences over ownership. We also know that people are trusting peers over advertising. And I think we've all seen this even in our own lives, where we do trust friends and family over content that we see from a brand because we feel that it's less biased. All over the world, we've seen that social media continues to explode, and in particular, I think images are something that are exploding. And we see that 76% of travelers post vacation photos to some kind of social network. So clearly, there's a huge amount of content being created. And what are people doing with that content? Well, we're seeing people turn more to visual decision making, and where they are turning to photos and videos to decide where to go, what to do, and what to buy. So keep these trends in mind as we talk about the rest of the presentation. But first, I wanted to stop and do a fun little poll. So I'm going to give you about a few seconds here to decide, where would you like to go for breakfast? Option A or option B? All right, I made this a very quick poll because typically you only have a few seconds to actually engage a traveler or a consumer. And I'm curious to know what people picked. Now, in the Caribbean webinar, I think we were about 60% or 6 out of 10 that picked option B. But typically when we've done this poll, anywhere from 80 to 90% of people are picking option B. And to us, this is just a really fun, quick experiment that illustrates what we mean by visual decision making. So we know, as I mentioned earlier, that image sharing is exploding. So if you look at this chart, it'll show you, certainly in the last 3 years especially, the growth of images being shared, especially through Snapchat, through WhatsApp, and Facebook continues to be growing, but we're seeing a big explosion also in Instagram in terms of relative size. And then the 8-second poll that I did earlier was really to make this point come home, which is that you only have about 8 seconds to engage a consumer online. When you think about people scrolling through Facebook or Twitter or just, surfing the net, you've got to get their attention. And so that's another reason why visuals really play a big role here, because they tend to be absorbed faster, they tend to really hit home emotionally, and it's a great opportunity for DMOs to take advantage of that as a way to reach the travelers that they're trying to attract to their destination. So what are the common issues that we see with DMO websites? Let's jump right in. One very common one that we see is that sites only share very well-known tourist spots. Now, of course, that's important because if someone comes to your island, you want to make sure that they're seeing the main things that your island is known for. But if that's all you're sharing, you're really falling short, because many people, if they go to other sources of information, they would also get to know what those well-known tourist spots are. So what makes your website special if you're sharing the same thing? Secondly, your website may not be visually striking. Now, this won't apply to all of you because I've been on some of your websites and they are beautiful, but some are, looking for areas of development. And so we see here, even some of the biggest destinations in the world, this is still something that they're working on. So if you look at this website, certainly this looks like it was built for the age of SEO, which is great. Lots of text, lots of keywords, the ability to actually book a room straight from the site. But what we know is that for travelers looking for inspiration and more of that sort of experience to get them excited, this website doesn't really give them that information. And so they may find that there isn't a reason for them to stick around. The other thing we see is that often DMOs, you'll put up some website visuals, and then either because you're going through an agency or maybe you are working through a web designer in-house, regardless, maybe it feels like it's a little bit cumbersome to update the visuals. Part of it is the process of adding the visuals, but part of it may just be that you don't have fresh new visuals, and so you keep the same ones up all the time thinking that your job is done. But people coming back to the site, which many visitors would be coming back to a site over and over again, those visitors are going to see the same visuals all the time. And if they're seeing that the visuals are stale, that may give them the impression that your website information is stale. Another problem we see is that your site feels like a directory. Now, there's of course a place and a need for directory-like information, because you want to be a central place where if someone's looking for the name of a business or a restaurant that they want to go to, you want to make sure that they can see this. But at the same time, you're really falling short in terms of giving them more information than just the basic, address, location, phone number. That's certainly one piece of it. But if that's all you're offering, I think there's a lot of missed opportunity. This is something which probably some of you are familiar with. We know that it always looks great to show these, beautiful professional photos of your destination, of the resorts that are on your destination or the tour operators, and we still think that there's a place for those. But if that's all you're showing and your photos look too perfect, there is a degree of skepticism. Okay, is that resort really going to be empty on a beautiful, warm spring day, or is it really going to be crowded? And so I think there's a balance. You don't want to necessarily only show sort of pictures that may be sort of quote unquote realistic. You still want to have some of that aspirational sort of fantasy that you want to show to your customers, but I think you want to make sure that your photos don't look too perfect and that's not all that you're showing. Another one we see is that your site doesn't direct users to relevant information. So what I mean by that is, let's say you do have a great photo as your hero image of someone eating a delicious looking meal with a view of the ocean. That's wonderful. But what if the person on your website actually wants to go to that place in that photo? Are you able to actually tell them where that is so that when they get this inspiration from the photos you're showing, they actually can take action on it? And finally, this is a struggle for all brands, not just DMOs, but people don't know about your website. We've heard already at the beginning of the presentation that it's so hard to stand out when there's just so much information out there for people to tap into. Getting ranked on Google, being found in a Facebook or Twitter news feed. Some people may just not know that your destination website exists, and especially if they're turning first to other sources of information like social media. So that may sound like doom and gloom, but there are many DMOs that have taken this and turned it around and really found ways to rise above the noise. And so I wanted to show you some examples of DMOs. Some of them are customers, but many of them are not customers. They're just destinations that we feel are great models of what you could be doing to address the challenges that I talked about earlier in this presentation. So the first one is to embrace your brand story. So this is an example of a small city in Tennessee called Franklin. And as you can see, what they've done here is really made a first impression that they are all about Americana. So they state this very clearly in their hero image on the website. But if you look at their choice of typography and the particular things that they're trying to show through their images and through their text, you definitely can see that they have a very clear brand, and it makes it really easy for the website visitor or the traveler to say, okay, if I'm really interested in, roots, blues, Americana, kind of, the heart of America, this would be an interesting place to go see. Next, we see lots of travel brands using social media to bring people to their website. So this example is Love Indy or Visit Indy, which is the city of Indianapolis in the US. And again, we see here that they have a contest around the hashtag Love Indy. And what they do is they encourage people to share photos using that hashtag, and then they curate those photos and bring them into a gallery on their webpage, and then they tell people on social media, hey, we featured your photo, it's on our web gallery, come check it out, and they're also giving away prizes. And so what this does is a couple of things. One, you're reaching people where they are already, so they're already on social media, so have that conversation with them on social media. And then use social media, and especially the photos that they're sharing, as a way to bring them to your website. So you can share with them that, we have a whole gallery of really cool photos around this hashtag. Come and check it out, see your photo in the gallery. And then, of course, in the case of Indy, they're offering some extra incentive in the form of prizes. And so bring them to your gallery and place that on your website and use that as a way to get them to click around to other parts of your site. I talked very briefly earlier about first impressions. Well, I think Barbados is a great example of what it means to really make an amazing first impression. So again, when you land on this website, the first thing you see is just this full-width, beautiful, striking visual. You see the beautiful, warm kind of green landscape there. You see these children who let you know that you're in a particular kind of destination. They're certainly having a lot of fun, and it gives you some great reason to explore more because the visuals just keep you on the page. This is the Palm Beaches in Florida, and what they do is they make sure that their visuals are updated regularly. And so this means not only their hero image on the homepage, but they also have, again, a gallery on their homepage where they can easily curate and push new content to their website without requiring the help of a web designer or web developer. It's one of these set it up and just get up and running with it examples, and it's a great way to show that, in a particular week of the month or a particular month of the year, if you're a visitor to their website, you're going to see recent photos because you want to know what is it really like in January, not what is it like in the middle of July, because you may be planning your vacation for a particular period of time. This is a small city in the US, Telluride, and this is their ski resort actually. And one of the things that they've done is they've shown real-time information. And so what I mean by that is they have placed live cameras in a few different spots around their resort. So some on the mountains, some in the village. And what a traveler can do is they can see what the weather is like, what it has been like over the last 24 hours using a time lapse. And the great thing about it is, as a visitor, you don't have to go to Instagram or Twitter to find this. You can see this right on the DMO website. And we hear this from a lot of travelers we talk to, that they want to know what the weather is like on a given day. And so they go to Instagram to do that, because sometimes you might see, okay, on a website, or you might look up the Weather Network and it says it's 20 degrees Celsius, but does that mean it's long sleeve weather? Should I be wearing a hat? What does that really mean? Because, temperature also can feel different depending on the wind and relative to a particular location, how dry it is, how humid it is. And so live cameras are just a very clever way to just give people that information firsthand and let them see for themselves. And they really feel like it's trusted information. Serve niche interests. So what I mean by that is, we talked a little bit earlier about how some DMO websites are just about, showing the main tourist spots. But we know that there are all kinds of travelers to destinations. So if you're going to the Caribbean, you may be a honeymooner, you may be a frazzled, busy executive just needing a solo getaway, you may be a family taking your first vacation, you may be a group of women going on a girls' getaway. There's lots of different kinds of travelers. You may be a foodie, you may really be into culture, shopping. And so what you want to do is make sure that you don't just show kind of the obvious things, but you have information on your website that caters to these different niche interests, so people can dig deeper. They see the basics, but then they can go into some of these niche interests. And so this is an example of the Visit Copenhagen website. And what they've done is, I've just shown you one example of a page that relates to a very particular neighborhood. And so in Copenhagen, and especially in many cities with the rise of Airbnb, people are planning their stays around not just food interests or hobbies, but even around neighborhoods. So just like you might go to New York and decide you just want to stay in Brooklyn, people are going to Copenhagen. I was there last summer actually, and I was staying in the neighborhood of Norborough. And so I wanted to know, like, where can I get up and have a nice brunch somewhere in the neighborhood? I don't just want to know the top 10 places in Copenhagen, because maybe I don't always want to travel to another neighborhood if I'm staying in a particular area for a reason. So again, serve these niche interests and use this as a way to really set yourself up as an authority. And then finally, we mentioned earlier that, if you're going to show these great visuals, photos, and videos, why not do something with them and get people to the relevant information they need and encourage them to do the things that you and your tourism partners want them to do. So in this case, this is our customer, Nassau, Bahamas. And what they do is, in these great photos that they curate, if you hover over a photo, you can see some information here. So there's a bit of branded content that says, "Cheers to the perfect Bahamas vacation." And then there's a little blue content piece right underneath that says, "Discover Malia Nassau Beach and Resort." So it's great. You see this photo of a drink, or you might see a beach that looks particularly nice to you. What you can do is give people the opportunity to click straight from that photo to another location, whether it's within your website, so you can go and find out about a particular activity, or maybe it's a link to one of your tourism partners, like a resort or a hotel, or a boat operator. This is just a little bit of a close-up, so you can see that not only do they send people to that information, but they also have some branded content at the bottom of this photo, so it encourages people to continue to share photos with their hashtag. A lot of times I think we forget that not everyone knows about your hashtag, and so if you're going to have a hashtag and you want people to share content, use lots of different opportunities to remind them of what that is. All right, so we're just going to wrap up here. So if I had to summarize some of the key things that we've seen with all the DMOs that we work with, I think the first thing, which actually is just about marketing, and really DMOs are one type of brand, but we've seen that regardless of what kind of marketing you do, that visuals are the language of the digital era. And with our customers, we've typically seen, huge increases in engagement when visuals are used, a 6 times retention when you use visuals versus when you don't use visuals, and 40 times more action, meaning people are more likely to share content or to do something about that content if it contains a visual in it. The other thing that we see typically with the DMOs that we work with is that their websites typically see a significant reduction in bounce rate. We see up to a 4 times increase in time on site because people are spending a lot more time looking for the information that they are interested in. And we see a 20% click-through to tourism partners, which is always nice because we want to be driving traffic to those partners. So just to close, I wanted to share a little bit about who we are. Our visual marketing platform is used by over 150 DMOs across the globe. And the way our product works is that we bring in photos and videos from social media. We also allow you to upload the photos that you've commissioned and that you own, or stock photos that you're purchasing, bring them all into one central platform that's accessible on the web to whoever on your team you choose to allow access to, and then you can push out that visual content very easily through a number of channels, from email to website to digital ads to even display screens at the airport or visitor centers, to digital integrations in terms of new products or microsites that you might build, and then even print. So visitor guides and brochures, they can all be taking advantage of this great visual content. So if anyone's interested in a quick tour of the photos that we have of your destination, you can visit go.crowdrift.com/preview, and we'd be happy to show you some examples. And I hope you enjoyed this presentation. And if you have any other questions, definitely let me know. I would be happy to help you out. Thank you very much.